Well, it's all messed up already because you've sat in the wrong seats to match your headshots. But that's fine. Let's carry on. So maybe just before we dive straight in, I think it's nice just for you guys to introduce yourselves quickly. So I'll go down the line with you first.
Okay. Hello, everybody. If you've not met me before, my name's David Creasey-Benjamin, affectionately known as DCB, and I currently find myself working at Vonage as one of their strategic account team, focused on messaging, particularly SMS and RCS. I've been working in the industry not quite as long as you, but technically for about, it's 20 plus years now with SMS.
Yeah,
so
I'm around that.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that bit.
Mariola Knapik. I am working for Telco and am responsible for messaging for the Telco group, so all Telco opcos. I have been in the industry for quite some time, but I have been involved in other part of industry like voice before. But now main focus is messaging and everything related to messaging.
Great.
Hi everyone, my name's James Lasbrey from GTC. We're the leading messaging consultancy business globally, so it feels like this is the right place to be. I'm ex-Vonage, Telefonica, Vodafone, so know most sides of the coin.
Great. Well, we've got a fantastic panel for this one. So, yeah, just with that theme in mind, that SMS being at the crossroads, James, if I can just maybe ask you a question around, you know, why does SMS still matter today? What scenarios do you think it might be irreplaceable?
Yeah, it's interesting because yesterday the tube stopped working across virtually the whole of London. And it's at times like that when the power strike as well in Spain and Portugal, when everything falls back to SMS. And I think it's an important point because there might be new technologies coming on, but they're all reliant on data. So when the data networks go, the power networks go, SMS is the only communication form that works and will be used to notify. So I see SMS continuing, benefiting from the new cases, and also being used as a backup. A brilliant use case, which I still think is one of the best use cases around, is one from WeFarm. So WeFarm started working with individual farmers based in Africa, predominantly in Kenya and Uganda. And this is farming as we don't know it. So this is individuals who are just not connected. They have no virtual mobile signal, but they do have a mobile phone which they use to message. And what WeFarm set up was a community across Kenya whereby the farmers, for the first time in their lifetimes, could be contacted by other farmers to inform them about issues that they may be experiencing in their farming. This basically revolutionized the world for them, meant that they could increase productivity. It actually led to payments in the future, but that had to be shut down because the price increases in those countries. And WeFarm was a non-for-profit, but it passed on the cost and that couldn't be stomached by the farmers. And I think that says kind of where we are in SMS today.
So there's very much a kind of a fallback solution, and it's very much, it's there, right? It's everywhere still on virtually every device. You can reach people, and there's a cost technology element as well. Anything to add to that?
I suppose the thing about SMS needs to survive is to avoid being seen as just that fallback, because it's there as the basis for everything. And I think that use case is absolutely perfect. There are parts of the world, or there are specific industries where actually the ability to send a logo or a picture, I'm going to talk about rich messaging, of course I am, because I love it. But there's loads of places like that, or loads of use cases like that, where that's not necessary. And actually having a baseline level that you can appeal to, but SMS needs to be seen and to be trusted so that it will still be used in that instance, and not just everything's broken, it's all we got left.
And Mariola, obviously you're based in Stockholm, Sweden, and so what are you seeing there? How are things evolving with SMS in Sweden, for example?
I would say that in Sweden, SMS, like P2P SMS, for example, initially from the beginning was part of the subscription. Nobody had to pay extra for SMS. So people were very used from the beginning to use SMS. They didn't have any extra cost. And I think that when we look, for example, at the P2P, it still is going strong. Of course, many people don't know that they use iMessage or they use RCS message right now. I mean, they think still they are sending SMS. But this usage is there. On the other hand, when we look at the A2P, which was also a very strong product in Sweden, many aggregators originated from Sweden, and it was vastly used. I think that there we see that this communication would need to evolve to stay relevant. And I suppose that the functionality, use cases, integration, everything would have to, needs to be taken into consideration to continue growing this business. So how we think about it is more like, for example, RBM or RCS is, for us, it's messaging. It's A2P or RBM, it's, as long as it stays somehow operator product, even in cooperation with everybody, it's a fantastic alternative for A2P. And also Sweden is a market of early adopters. People have new phones. I mean, people love innovation. So we are really hoping for RBM and RCS on both iOS and Android, because that would change. And we also see a lot of interest from consumer and interest from brand, who are very active in looking at this. So we think that A2P will need to be used for certain cases, as you mentioned. Of course, handset independent, very intuitive. People know how to use it. In case of emergencies, always fantastic channel. Fallback for any customer who is not connected to data, great. But we also see that rich communication is a future, and we think that they need to coexist.
So I can get my head around it quite easily with the P2P, because we're doing it all the time with WhatsApp. I mean, here today, we have a group on WhatsApp for the MEF team, and we're sending lots of communication, but it's mainly around the rich content where that's particularly important. So if we take the P2P out of the equation for just 1 second, and we think about the enterprises, the people who are, I guess, paying for these services, what's actually driving that in your experience? I'll maybe come to you on that one, David.
Well, I think for any business that's doing anything, the ultimate driver is value. If you see something as a sunk cost, you want to do less of it. And you're going to bully your suppliers mercilessly, in the case of SMS, to get the lowest price possible for that thing that you see as a sunk cost to your business. When you talk to an enterprise about rich communication, particularly RCS, I'll say, is you don't have to talk about an increase in cost, but you can talk about an increase in value immediately. So being able to turn over SMS content directly into RCS, you'll derive more value from the exact same spend, pretty much, because it's more trusted, it arrives from your brand, it is verified, so it overcomes a number of the end consumer issues with SMS of not knowing who it's coming from, even to the extent, so one of our clients, Free Now, some of you may have taken one of their cabs to get here today, they started just sending pins. And to be brutally honest, no one saw them getting a huge amount more value out of sending that over RCS. It was just where they wanted to start. They saw a 7% increase, 7 percentage point increase in successfully logging in first time. And that's on their bottom line. Because if you log in successfully, you tend to book a cab. So that's why the rich channels, I mean, certainly on WhatsApp, you can derive a huge amount of value from the conversation spending. You can derive a huge amount of value from people being able to click to chat or scan to chat. It's just really, really simple. And an end consumer, I think Mariola's right. They don't differentiate between an SMS and another type of message. What they're looking for is, I need to do this thing. I need to know the person I'm doing it with is the person I think it is. And it needs to be really, really easy. SMS still works in some of those circumstances as the fallback, as the channel of least resistance. But if you're talking to an enterprise about talking to their consumers, rich messaging is better value.
Okay, so we touched there on cost and value, and value being the key thing there, moving away. Let's, because I think what we're talking about there is obviously customer engagement in terms of responses to that. Let's look at the other kind of area that was touched on by Jacob earlier, which is network APIs. And maybe, James, if I can come to you. Do you believe that is the future, kind of switching off SMS, moving to network APIs? And can you elaborate?
Yeah, I'd say it's not the alternative. It's not going to take all of it. It'll take certain use cases and it'll complement it. I mean, innovation has been needed in this channel for a long, long time. And I think we've all been focused on how do we drive kind of more kind of use cases that add value, like David was speaking about. I'll give two examples. I was speaking to our head of recruitment who helps businesses kind of recruit specialists in the market, and she's based in Dubai. And she was saying they've taken the Uber concept to another level. So one of the issues I'm sure you all have as a parent is on pretty much a weekly occasion, you'll get your child say, oh, I've forgotten my kit, oh, I've forgotten my trainers. They have a service with an Uber equivalent whereby the people will come pick up the package, take it to the school, it'll all be sorted out for you. Amazing. Even
God's
better.
sake, don't tell my son, I'm not doing that.
Even better, I said, oh my God, that's like a different one. I'd pay so much for that.
Yeah.
Then she said, oh, it's even better because my tank is empty, because she was picking us up and taking us to the restaurant. And I said, well, when are you going to fill it up? And she goes, oh, there's a guy who comes in the night and we'll fill it up. We'll leave the car on the drive, give them the code, and they'll fill up the tank overnight. So when she gets up in the morning, she's got a full tank of petrol. I mean, it's things like this, which is proper innovation, which is changing. And we're not talking about, okay, are we helping the kind of the fraud around kind of SIM swap technology, age verification, any data on the consumer. It's just an enhanced use case, Nick. And I think that's where we're shifting.
Yeah. And again, in Sweden or other regions, Mariola, are you seeing the same? I mean, the question is, you know, should we be looking to innovate on an SMS, or are we wasting our time there? Should it be in other areas?
I think that we should, definitely. We always should innovate. I think we need to evolve, and all this communication needs to evolve. And as you say, there are plenty of cases which we don't even can think about today. So I think and consumer really demands many new things, right? But I think that with the identity, how I see it, it requires alignment of operators on the market and commitment to it, and they need to see it's always about profitability, it's always about cost of investment and the platforms, and also finding the common use cases. And those use cases should not only be fraud prevention, I agree with you, they should give something more. And once this happens, yeah, then it is relevant. And I know that GSMA is driving now on many markets, trying to align operators and trying to push this initiative. And I think that it could definitely be a very good alternative for some cases, yes.
Yeah. So I think it may have been John that mentioned potentially, apologies if it wasn't you, John, but mentioning that you know, carriers might look to drop the costs if they're seeing erosion of the SMS channel, then dropping costs might be the alternative to that. What I've personally seen through all the data that we've looked at is that the opposite's happening. The prices are going up. That's increasing kind of fraud on the network. I don't want to go down a specific kind of fraud rabbit hole here, but from an operator point of view, Mario, do you think, and again, I don't want to get into deep discussion on pricing, but do you think it might be logical that an operator would look at lowering pricing to save the channel?
I think that this is a very long discussion we are having, right, about this, because I think that in general the SMS prices, like globally, should be more equal. I think that what is happening, there are big discrepancies. So it is very difficult for SMS, for A2P. I think the erosion started there when we started to increase prices, and they are very different in different markets, and that's why also we see the usage in different markets different way. I think we, in Scandinavia, we have quite nice price level, and of course I would like to see this staying this way, because that's how we can protect this channel. And I don't think that increasing prices 10 times is good for anyone. And we also need to understand it from the perspective of the brand. Brand needs to be able to use the channel and also make a profit on the product which they promote or whatever they do.
Yeah.
I think it's worth saying I think the mobile carriers that have increased 100, 400%, they're not always consistent in country. So actually that's made the reputation of SMS in those countries worse, because wherever you've got a massive discrepancy, there shall you have AIT. I don't think that mobile carriers are necessarily listening, though, because we do see that in certain parts of the world where that continued short-term gain, I might immediately get X amount of volume. The thing is, there are legitimate alternatives now. You know, we've touched on a couple of them, but certainly RCS, the network APIs business, WhatsApp is out there, Viber is out there, WeChat is out there. They're all legitimate alternatives with significant amount of reach. At some point, they'll have enough reach that someone will go, okay, well, if I don't have SMS, it won't matter. If we're going to develop the use cases that consumers want, and by that, I expect a consumer wants the simplest way to have a conversation with the people they want to talk to, and particularly if that's with a business. Enterprises have to adopt a multi-channel strategy, make that as simple as possible. I think integrate the network data to make it as secure as possible. I think as part of those future solutions, SMS always is going to have a place, but only if it's realistic to use it. If it's 8, 10, 15, 20 times the cost to use that for a tiny section of individuals, your enterprise is not going to bother.
Well, we've seen it with Google, right? So they've switched to QR codes now and switched a lot of SMS-based services off.
Yeah, but what I will say, and Tim will correct me because I think Mr. Atkinson's in the room, yeah, they're going to switch it off. But when I haven't got my mobile phone and my QR code, having gone through an account recovery process recently, my son's, because I couldn't remember a password or the PIN or this or whatever. What do you think the last channel of use was? It was SMS, and I still have my mobile, and I still managed to recover his account.
Could that have something to do with the 25 years in the business?
Yeah, who's to say that a 30-year-old, you know, one of only the two things you've had in a mobile phone for 30 years is going to be really, really difficult to get rid of entirely.
No, it makes
sense. But do you want it to be that port of last resort only? I don't think we do.
My personal experience is, again, without going off on a complete tangent, heading up a CPaaS business here in Europe, our biggest problem was we were dealing with procurement teams on SMS. It's a commodity. It's like gas. It's like electric that goes in the building. They see it as a cost line, and it's with procurement, and they negotiate on that price. Otherwise, you lose the business to somebody else who's then probably doing some nefarious activity to cut the price down. That is the issue that I've personally experienced. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
I just wanted to say that there is another aspect that we need to think about. It's a security. We didn't touch on this, but I think that it would be very important for RBM to be encrypted. I mean, it's great that it's verifiable, that it's verified, that that the customer can feel safe, that she or he knows where the communication comes from. but still the encryption in terms of GDPR or personal safety would be very good, I think. So, yeah.
And I think there's a whole topic around that tomorrow with the, and we purposely tried to keep the kind of fraud and ID conversations a bit separate. Anything else to say? I think, James, if I start with yourself, just to kind of close off, and then we'll open up for some questions.
So one thing that hasn't been mentioned today by the analysts and the reviews is national messaging is increasing, right? Businesses locally want to start using messaging more because they see the value. International messaging is under severe pressure and declining because big OTT brands just will not put their users through any risk, and they're not going to pay exuberant rates for it. So actually the industry has done it to itself, and that is going to shift to alternatives. But for brilliant use cases, for example, we did scuba diving lessons, myself and my son, and then went to Thailand. And I was amazed that the underwater digital interface or whatever, which allowed you to talk to the guy on the surface and vice versa, used SMS. Wow. And that was the same in the UK as it was when we went to Thailand. And that wasn't looking at RBM or anything else. It was just looking at what's the best way to communicate, and it was SMS. So I think we get obsessed in the industry of, oh, when's SMS going to die and when's it going to switch? Actually, RBM isn't ready in kind of 70% of countries because not all operators are aligned. So I think SMS will continue to grow locally. Internationally, it's got a problem.
I think that's a great summary, and one I fully agree with. Mariola, any final words from you?
No, I think I agree with you that this constant discussion that it is going to die today and it is going to die today, I think that we should try to really keep the reputation of the SMS. We should try to use it when it is useful and when A2P is really reliable, maybe more than other channels, and use other rich channels to different cases. The use cases could be completely different of both. I also feel that, for example, WhatsApp is more like P2P communication. I think RBM would be more promotional. I think A2P will be more safety, traditional usage. So I think all of them can coexist very well.
Yeah. And David?
I think absolutely. I don't tend to talk to customers about SMS or WhatsApp or even RCS, even though I spend a lot of time talking about it. I talk about messaging and being able to have a conversation with your customer in the right place. Then we can talk about channel mix based on where their consumers are based, what their customers are going to expect, what the type of use cases that they want and the value that they want to derive or the value they want to bring to their users. You're talking about having a conversation in the right place with the right person. And SMS is part of that mix, but I think what we have to be better at as an industry in terms of SMS is showing off the improvements that have been made. If we can get to a stage where my bank is not telling me, please ignore any SMS, because that's where we are today. If you get a message from HMRC or if you get a message from your bank, it likely does not include a link, which makes it less useful. And if you go onto their website and you say, how are you going to communicate with me? They might have pages and pages and rafts of information. This is how you spot a genuine SMS from us. So while we've improved things as an ecosystem, as an industry, we have to continue. That's why I like the charter conversation from this morning. I think there are things that we can do to make sure that channel is as secure as the others are all perceived to be. And then it continues in that mix as, let's facilitate your conversation with your customer in the right place.
Great, thank you. Well, we've got 1 minute till coffee time, you'll be pleased to hear. Not that this isn't really stimulating conversation. Have we got any questions before we head that way? It's
an audience that wants caffeine.
It is, yeah. Well, I think that was a great start to the morning, and thank you very much, James, Mariola, and David. Thank you.